So I get asked this question a lot, so I figured it deserved its own episode, or different variations of this question. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about, do you need two cameras? What type of photography benefits from using two? Should they be the same model? Should you shoot with both at the same time? I'll break it down across different genres. I'll explain when an amateur might consider having two bodies and why a professional definitely needs two bodies. And just a fun little note, I just got a brand new Herman Miller Aeron chair, and it's so damn comfortable. Also picked up this used Leica 180. I'm not going to talk about either of those things today. Just wanted to share something personal with you guys. And stick around until the end because I'll share with you guys my current two-camera setup, both for Leica, for editorial and personal, and sometimes commercial, and my Sony system that I use for commercial work. I'll share with you guys quickly that kit and why I like to use it. Let's start with the big question. Do you need two cameras? Well, if you're a professional on a paid assignment, then yes, you absolutely need a second camera. Not necessarily shooting with both at the same time, but you need a backup in case something goes wrong. Period. End of story. I learned this lesson the hard way back in my early 20s. I splurged on a fancy Nikon camera. I put it on my credit card. Couldn't afford it, and I went to a workshop in Missouri, and my instructor was the photo editor at Time magazine, and she had like a I got you moment, and I had a like light bulb moment. She said like, oh, what's your backup camera? And I didn't have one. I froze, and she gave me this look that said everything. If I ever wanted to shoot for Time or any serious media outlet, I needed a backup camera. Things go wrong. Human error, gear failure, and coming back with nothing is just not an option. And since that day, I've never shown up to a shoot without two cameras. All right, now same camera or different camera? This is an interesting one. This really depends on your genre and your shooting style. So for wedding photographers where things move fast and you're usually shooting with two bodies strapped around your neck at the same time, having two of the same exact camera makes life a lot easier. Familiar controls, match colors, same batteries, it just makes perfect sense. That said, if you want to shoot a few rolls of film or include something stylistically with a different camera, a vintage lens, you might bring a film body or a different system, but I'd still recommend having two versions of your main system ready. Not necessarily around your neck, but just the backup nearby or on location. And if budget is a concern, which is totally understandable, especially if you're investing in a flagship camera for a system that costs like over $5,000 or even more, it's tough to be able to afford both of those cameras, but at least aim for a similar sensor performance. Like for example, for me, I use the Sony A7R V paired with an A7 IV. It's a great combo for me for commercial work, some editorial work, and some hybrid work, stills and video. So the A7R V is my main camera for high-res, lifestyle shots, interior shots, and my A7 IV is my go-to for low light or sometimes if I need video. And it can still get me out of a jam if I haven't committed to a certain amount of megapixels with the client with my A camera. So if something goes wrong with the A7R V, I can still finish the shoot with the A7 IV. Like I remember using this combo for a big shoot for a client where we had a bunch of lights, a whole stage look situation. We rented out an entire cafe in Thailand. It was a big commercial client. I'd share with you images, but it's an NDA client. But for that shoot, my A7R V was my A camera for all those shots, but we did have one shot on list that I sort of came up with where we're shooting in a dark alley, only a little bit of light, and we're shooting before sunrise. And so that mood, that idea, that shot, that concept, having the A7R IV was perfect, and they were okay. Of course, I communicate these things with the client. Is it okay if I use 30 megapixels instead of 50 megapixels or 60 or whatever in this situation? And they were fine with it. But communication is really important. But I knew that that camera would perform better in low light as a lower megapixel camera. So yes, for me in commercial work, I can mix and match. For some people, high-end studio stuff, billboard only shoots, backup camera is going to have to be the same or else you're going to run into issues. So what about for street photography? Like even when I'm shooting casually, I still carry a backup because I look at every time I go out as an assignment. I put that pressure on myself as an assignment. For me, my setup is my A camera for street photography. It might be a Leica M10D. Sometimes it's my M11. It really depends on what kind of mood I'm in, screen or no screen, but I'll always have a Ricoh GR IIIx in the bag as my backup. And not just for backup. Sometimes I want to be more discreet. I'm in a sketchy neighborhood or I want to keep a low profile. The Ricoh also works as my little dedicated black and white camera, so it lets me switch things up stylistically. So you're starting to see a theme here in my two camera system. My backup camera, I don't like to have the same camera. Works for some, doesn't work for me. I like my other camera to offer something different, a little bit different. And so for my editorial work, I do things a little bit differently here as well. I shoot most of my editorial work with my Leica M11. I just had an amazing assignment in Cambodia for the Smithsonian. Won't come out till next year, but it was so much fun to shoot with the Leica M11. Loved it. I used that as my A camera, and I used my Leica M10D as my B camera. But I knew that shoot, I didn't have a ton of time, but I knew that shoot, a mix of portraits, reportage, but things weren't happening super fast. I knew I could slow down a bit, and I also knew I could get away without autofocus. But if I do need autofocus or faster shooting, I bring along my SL2S, and I couple that with a newly purchased 28-70. It's a very lightweight zoom lens. That gives me flexibility if I need to work fast or vary my focal lengths very quickly. Like I'm shooting a portrait, there's not a lot of time, or something's happening really quickly. Like I can have my M11 on me, and also have the SL2S around my neck at the same time and have the zoom lens. That's very rare, but it does seem to happen, so it's just nice to have that option. It's nice to have that insurance policy. And so for me, it's not about having two of the same, it's about complementing your main camera with something that fills gaps with that A camera. Something that works for me and my style and the way I work, and also in my diverse types of shoots that I do. However, I don't want a massive megapixel gap between them, but I've shot for major magazines, and never once have I ever had issues with megapixels, even sending images to a client that some were 60 and some were only 24. Honestly, megapixels are really overhyped. So when do you actually use two cameras at once? Well, this is different for different people. I did this all the time in my journalism days. Fast-paced assignments meant no time to swap lenses. I was a dual prime shooter, so typically I had a 35mm on one camera and 85mm on the other camera, and I still shoot this way on documentary-style commercial gigs as well. I just had a gig in Malaysia where I was ghosting for a big client, but video was the priority. I was just ghosting and shooting stills. Photography wasn't a priority. It's tough to digest. That was fine. But I had to work around a huge video crew, and time is tight. So I had to have two bodies on me at the same time, and I went with like a 50 and 85. So anything wider, I'd have the crew in the shot. So didn't have a lot of space to work, and I didn't have a lot of time to work. That's when I'd use a dual body system. And I still like using primes in that situation if I can, because I just like the thought process it gets me into, and also like the quality of low light primes. And the same thing back in the day when I used to shoot weddings, I'd shoot with two bodies on me at the same time for things that are happening really fast, and just to cover myself for insurance for big moments that only happen once. And I'd work with my second photographer, my backup photographer. We would coordinate. Maybe I was the 35-85 guy for that day, and they were the 24-50. We just sort of covered all of our bases and communicated. Maybe switch it up halfway. But for most of my assignments in general, most of my work that I do, I like shooting with one body at a time. I like not having a ton of gear on me. However, I need that insurance policy. So my second camera body usually just lives in my bag, but occasionally comes out for these different circumstances that I mentioned. I need autofocus, or I need higher or lower megapixels, or I need something better in low light, or I want a dedicated black and white camera. I want to be more discreet. And there's benefits of having the same camera as well. Like if you've got the budget and you want to roll with two flagship cameras that can do everything that you need to do, and you can justify the cost or afford it, that's a smart move for many people as well. I've just never liked carrying two of the same camera. It's been kind of boring for me. I've done it, but I just don't like to do it. As I've gotten older, as I've gotten more diverse in my photography, I like different setups for different things. I'm very calculated in my setup, and I think you guys should be too. There's no single rule for two camera setup. It should depend on your genre, your style, your client, and your personality. Some street photographers love having two bodies ready and shooting at the same time. Others don't, and that works for them. Just get to know how you like to work and figure out the right tools for the job. Think about your needs across different types of shoots and make sure you're covered, especially when you're getting paid. So that's it. That's sort of the answer, or non-answer, I should say, because really what works for me might not work for you, but that's how I use my setup. That's why I have two cameras at all times, just not always using them at the same times, but sometimes. Let me know your setup and why. I love hearing people's gear setup and how they use it and why they use it. Everyone's always giving new ideas to me, so let me know in the comments section below. I'm quite engaged. For all you guys out there that are interested in improving your photography, I have a workshop. We have 2 slots left for my Central Vietnam workshop in December this year. Once you get here, it's all-inclusive. It's an amazing workshop, an incredible experience that will live with you forever. I'm not there setting up shots for you. I'm helping you learn and grow in your photography. The skills you're going to learn in this workshop, you take with you afterwards. I hope you grow after my workshop, not just during my workshop. Also, for those of you that can't make the workshop, I do offer one-on-one classes, portfolio reviews, long-term mentorship programs, and much more. All of that is available at askmott.com. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and don't forget to have a wonderful day. New chair. Awesome. New lens? Not sure yet. More on that later.